Hey man, the moment your ex realizes you are truly gone is not the day you block her, not the day you stop replying, and not even the day you walk out the door. It's weeks or months later, in a moment she never expected, when she finally looks for you in the places she's used to finding you, her texts, her social media notifications, her life, and you're just not there. At first, she assumed this was a game, that you were bluffing, that the silence was a way to get her attention. She thought all she had to do was wait you out, because in her mind, you'd always been the man who showed up no matter what. But as the days stretch into weeks, and the weeks stretch into months, something begins to shift in her mind. The comfortable certainty she once had, that you'd always orbit her, always be reachable, always be ready to respond, is gone. And this is where the panic begins to creep in, even if she doesn't show it. It's the moment she realizes this isn't a pause. This is a permanent removal. You didn't just leave the room, you left the building, locked the door, and threw away the key. See, most women live with the unspoken belief that no matter how they treat a man, if he once loved her deeply, that love will always leave the door cracked open for her return. They depend on the idea that even if they push you away, even if they disrespect you, even if they leave you for someone else, they can always find their way back if the other side turns out to be worse. And for most men, that belief is unfortunately true. They'll answer the call months later. They'll agree to talk things out. They'll leave that window open because deep down, they're hoping she'll come to her senses. But when you are different, when you walk away with such finality that there is no window, no back door, no side entrance, you shatter a piece of her ego she thought was unbreakable. This is not about her missing you yet. This is about her struggling to accept that she has lost access to the security she once took for granted. The first sign she's feeling that shift is subtle. She'll start testing the water without making it obvious, liking your posts, if you still have social media, sending a casual "hope you're doing well" text, or asking mutual friends how you're doing. These aren't innocent actions, they're probes. She's looking for cracks in the wall you've built, trying to see if you'll take the bait and respond in a way that tells her she still has you. But when those attempts fall into silence, when she's met with nothing but the emptiness of a man who has already closed that chapter, the weight of reality starts to set in. And for women who are used to men folding under the slightest bit of charm or attention, that reality can feel almost unbearable. Now, here's the part most men don't realize. Her realization that you're truly gone doesn't usually come during her highest moments. It doesn't happen when she's out with friends, posting selfies and pretending to live her best life. It comes in the quiet moments, the nights when she can't sleep, the mornings when she wakes up and checks her phone only to find nothing from you. The days when something reminds her of you, a smell, a song, a place, and she instinctively reaches for her phone, then remembers there's no point. Those are the moments when the gravity of your absence sinks in, not because you were just another man in her life, but because you were the man she thought she could always keep on standby. When that realization hits, the emotional sequence begins. First, there's denial. She convinces herself you're just being dramatic, that eventually you'll crack. Then there's irritation. She starts telling herself you're being petty, immature, or acting different because you're hurt. But when more time passes, and you still don't come back, it turns into genuine anxiety. She begins to question her own value, because in her mind, every man from her past has always kept that door open, except you. That thought eats at her, because it forces her to face the one thing women hate to admit: they can be replaced, and once replaced, they lose control over how they're remembered. And that loss of control is a form of powerlessness she's not built to handle well. As the weeks continue without any sign of you, the denial starts to collapse under the weight of silence. She begins to replay old memories, not because she's suddenly sentimental, but because she's searching for answers. She starts scanning through every conversation, every fight, every joke, every intimate moment, looking for clues as to why you aren't coming back like she thought you would. This isn't nostalgia, this is forensic analysis in her mind. She wants to pinpoint the moment she lost her grip on you. And the more she digs, the more she starts to realize that this wasn't a sudden decision, that maybe you were slowly detaching long before she even noticed. This thought terrifies her because it means she didn't have as much control over you as she once believed. She's used to believing she's always in the driver's seat, Now, she's realizing she was in the passenger seat the whole time and the driver has taken the keys and vanished. This is where the cracks in her social facade start to show. Outwardly, she'll keep pretending everything's fine. She might post more glamorous pictures, go out more often, and fill her time with distractions. But inwardly, every photo she posts, every fun night out she documents, has a shadow behind it, the hope that you'll see it. She's still looking for a reaction, still testing whether she can pull you back into orbit. But when those baited hooks keep coming up empty, no likes, no messages, no acknowledgement, it's like trying to throw a fishing line into a dry well. She starts to realize she's not influencing your emotions anymore. And for a woman who once thrived on knowing she could spark jealousy, desire, or even anger in you, that loss of emotional leverage feels like suffocation. And here's where the dynamic shifts in your favor. Once she senses that she can no longer affect you, her curiosity morphs into obsession. She will start to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and how you've managed to detach so completely. She'll imagine scenarios in her head, sometimes wild and exaggerated, where you're with someone better, someone more attractive, someone who appreciates you in ways she never did. And even if those scenarios are purely in her imagination, they will burn her ego like acid. Because now, for the first time, she's facing the truth. The man she thought she could always get back is living a life without her, and worse, he seems to be doing better without her. This is the phase where regret begins to settle in. But here's the thing, regret doesn't always mean she wants you back for the right reasons. More often than not, she regrets losing the access, the security, and the emotional safety net you represented. She regrets losing the man who would have answered her calls in the middle of the night, the man who would have forgiven her mistakes, the man who would have gone out of his way to make things right even when she was wrong. In other words, she doesn't regret losing you, the person. She regrets losing the version of you that centered her world around her. And when she realizes she can't get that version of you back, her mind begins to spiral into the dangerous territory of chasing what she can't have, not out of love, but out of ego preservation. At this point, the silence you've maintained is no longer just an absence to her, it's a mirror. It reflects every choice she made that pushed you away. It forces her to confront her own behavior, her own arrogance, and her own belief that she could treat you however she wanted without ever truly losing you. And for many women, that realization hits harder than the breakup itself. Because while heartbreak is painful, accountability is excruciating. She might try to reframe the story in her head, telling herself that you were cold or uncaring from the start, because that's easier than admitting she underestimated your strength. But deep down, the truth will gnaw at her. You were a man who had the courage to walk away and mean it, and that's something she wasn't prepared for, because in her world, most men don't have that kind of resolve. Now comes the turning point, the moment where her confidence begins to fully fracture. She's been telling herself that you're probably just cooling off, and that eventually the pull of nostalgia or lingering emotions will drag you back into her world. But when days turn to weeks and weeks turn to months without even a breadcrumb from you, the silence becomes deafening. And silence for a woman who is used to being the emotional sun in a man's universe is unbearable. She starts replaying all her old tactics, the subtle flirting, the delayed responses, the calculated social media posts, but none of it works on you anymore. You're not even biting the bait. She's fishing with an empty hook, and every failed attempt drains her of the illusion of control she once wielded over you. This is when she stops seeing herself as the prize and starts seeing you as the one who holds all the value, because you're the only one who doesn't seem desperate to be in her life. It's at this stage that her ego begins the dangerous descent into what I call the validation void. She's been conditioned to believe that she can always get the attention of any man she's been with, and most of the time, she's right. But now she's staring at a scenario that doesn't make sense to her. You're not reaching out, you're not looking for closure, you're not even giving her the satisfaction of knowing whether you still care. And in her mind, this makes you different from every other man she's ever dealt with. It's a paradox for her. The more you refuse to engage, the more she needs your attention to feel whole again. She may not even want a relationship with you anymore, but the idea that you're no longer orbiting her world becomes an unbearable insult to her self-image. This is when she starts to rationalize her way back into your life. It might start small, A random message that accidentally goes to you, a meme she thinks you'd laugh at, or a casual question about something she forgot from when you were together. These are probes, little tests to see if the door is still open. If you respond even slightly, it gives her hope that she can still control the narrative. But if you don't, if you maintain that wall of indifference, something shifts inside her. The power dynamic has completely flipped, and she's now in the position of pursuing while you remain unmoved. That's a position she's not used to being in, and it will eat away at her, because every attempt to regain control is met with the brutal truth: you've moved on without her. Here's the part most men don't understand. At this stage, it's not about love for her. It's about restoring her self-image. She could have moved on to someone else already, maybe even multiple people, but that won't erase the sting of losing the one man she couldn't reel back in. She might even try to convince herself that she's over you, while still stalking your life from a distance, waiting for a sign of weakness. And this is why disappearing is so powerful. It forces her to confront the fact that her beauty, her charm, her emotional games, none of it worked on you in the long run. That realization rewrites the way she sees herself. And when a woman is forced to see herself differently, she will do almost anything to repair that image, even if it means chasing a man she once thought was already hers. This is the danger zone for you, because if she decides to come back, it will often be under the guise of reconciliation, but the reality is different. She's not coming back to build something better, she's coming back to prove she can still have you. And once she does, the same patterns will likely return, because the real wound wasn't losing you, it was losing her perceived control over you. That's why when your ex realizes you're really gone, the smartest move isn't to jump at the chance for closure or a second chance. The smartest move is to keep walking, because by the time she reaches that point, you've already won. You've shown that you're a man who values his peace over her presence, and that's a lesson she won't ever forget. And trust me, whether she admits it or not, she'll respect you more for disappearing than she ever did when you were right there, available at her every call. Once the reality has sunk in that you're not coming back, her behavior often shifts from subtle probing to full-on irrationality. She may start trying to provoke you indirectly, posting cryptic quotes about moving on, flaunting pictures with other men, or suddenly acting like she's living her best life without you. But here's the catch. All of this is a performance for your eyes, even if she pretends it's for herself. These public displays are bait, carefully placed in hopes that you'll feel a sting of jealousy and break your silence. What she doesn't understand is that by staying detached, you're sending a louder message than any words could. I am not competing for your attention anymore. And that silence forces her to wrestle with a truth she never prepared for. That she's lost a man who genuinely didn't need her validation to feel valuable. As the days roll on without a single acknowledgement from you, she may start to experience what I call emotional withdrawal syndrome. It's very similar to an addict losing their supply. For months or years, she's been used to the hit of dopamine she gets from your attention, the text messages, the compliments, the reassurance that you're still there. Now that the supply has been cut off, her brain starts craving it, and the longer she goes without it, the more it magnifies in her mind. She may start checking your profiles more often, asking mutual friends about you, or finding excuses to bring your name into conversations. She's chasing the emotional high she used to get from you, but the more she chases, the more she realizes she has no access to the source anymore, and that absence becomes louder than any presence you could have maintained. At this point, desperation often takes on new forms. She might reach out directly with a sudden confession, telling you she misses you, that she's been thinking about you, or even that she made a mistake. For the average man, this is where emotions take over, and they rush back in, thinking this is the reconciliation they always wanted. But you have to understand something crucial. In many cases, her feelings in this moment are not a sign of genuine change, but a knee-jerk reaction to losing control. She's not necessarily craving you, she's craving the feeling of being desired by you again. That distinction is the difference between walking back into a trap or maintaining your position of strength. If you give in too soon, you erase all the work your absence has done to shift the power dynamic. And here's the psychological twist. The more she realizes you're immune to her attempts, the more her respect for you actually grows, even if she won't admit it. Most men fold the second a woman dangles even the smallest sign of interest. But when you maintain your stance, you're showing her that you operate on principle, not impulse. That is an incredibly rare trait in today's dating landscape, where emotional impulsiveness rules. You're teaching her, without a single lecture, that you're not a man who can be guilt-tripped, manipulated, or lured back into a dynamic that no longer serves you. You're showing her that walking away is not a bluff. It's a lifestyle choice rooted in self-respect. And that kind of discipline plants a permanent seed in her mind, one that will stay with her long after the emotions of the moment fade. By the time she fully accepts that you're gone, a strange phenomenon happens. She starts rewriting history in her mind. She begins to focus less on why the relationship ended and more on the moments when she felt most drawn to you. She replays the times you were confident, centered, and in control of yourself. And she contrasts those with the way you are now, untouchable, unbothered, and out of reach. In her mind, that version of you is more attractive than ever because scarcity creates value. The very thing that broke her hold on you, your willingness to disappear, becomes the thing that defines you in her memory. And whether she ever reaches out again or not, you can be certain of one thing: she will never forget the man who had the strength to walk away and mean it. That's the kind of imprint that lingers, quietly shaping the way she views men for the rest of her life. Months later, when life has moved on for you, and you're no longer even thinking about her, she'll be hit with a wave of nostalgia she can't explain. It could be sparked by something as simple as a song, a smell, or an old photograph that randomly surfaces. But in that moment, her mind will drag her back to the version of herself that existed when you were in her life. She'll remember the security, the validation, and the unspoken comfort of knowing you were hers, even if she took it for granted. And when she realizes that chapter is closed for good, the weight of that loss will land differently. It won't be just a breakup anymore. It will feel like she lost a part of her identity. Because, whether she admits it or not, a woman's self-image is deeply tied to the men she's able to keep, not just the ones she's able to attract. This is also the stage where the delayed regret effect becomes strongest. She'll start comparing you to the men she's met since, men who might have given her attention, but lacked your presence, your emotional control, your grounded energy. At first, she may have told herself that replacing you would be easy, but reality will chip away at that fantasy. Every man she meets will either seem too eager, too bland, or too predictable compared to the man who refused to play by her rules. And the more she realizes you are one of a kind in your ability to remain calm, composed, and self-contained, the more she'll regret not valuing that when she had it. This isn't a fleeting emotion, this is a deep, gnawing recognition that she made a trade she can't undo. Sometimes this regret will drive her to reappear, even years later, under the guise of just wanting to catch up. But make no mistake, this isn't casual curiosity. It's a calculated move to see if the door is still open, to test whether you're still the man she once couldn't fully figure out. And here's the irony: the longer you've stayed gone, the more she'll build you up in her mind as the man who got away. That's why disappearing is so powerful. It lets time work in your favor, turning you into a mystery that grows more attractive with every unanswered message and every silent year. If you respond, you strip away that mystique. If you don't, you reinforce it and become an almost mythic figure in her story. But here's the deeper truth most men overlook. The power of disappearing isn't about manipulating her, it's about protecting yourself. The moment you choose distance, you're choosing to no longer be in an environment where you're undervalued, disrespected, or taken for granted. You're creating space for your self-respect to breathe, for your ambitions to expand, and for your sense of peace to return. Whether she feels the loss or not becomes irrelevant, because the real victory is in reclaiming your energy. The fact that it also tends to trigger her desire is just a byproduct of the fact that you've stopped centering your life around her. Your life becomes about you again, and paradoxically, that's what women find hardest to resist. In the end, when your ex finally realizes you are truly gone, it won't be a single moment. It will be a slow creeping understanding that you've moved on in a way that she can't undo. She'll realize she can't guilt you, tempt you, or charm you back into the position she once had you in. And that's when the balance of power permanently shifts. You're no longer the man she thought she could come back to at will. You're the man who taught her, through your actions, that self-respect is non-negotiable. She'll never admit the depth of the wound you left, but it will echo in the back of her mind every time she deals with another man who lacks your strength. And long after the emotions fade, one truth will remain in a world where most men never truly walk away. You did, and that is why she will never ever forget you.